and welcome from my little writing space here in Vienna. My name is Luise. I'm a literature student and writer, and today I wanted to talk about writing because I haven't done that in a while, or at least not in a specific video. And I really hope there are some amongst you who are also interested in that, because I realized the videos where I talk about university are the ones that, a lot of people watch and they go quite well. But writing is also a very big part of my life. So maybe you're also interested in that, a little bit at least. I feel like it is so difficult to start. You might have some ideas in your head and you might have the inspiration or the itch to write something, or maybe you don't, which is fine. But if you do have some ideas and you still haven't gotten around to sit down and just start writing, there are probably tools and things that you can do to, make the setting right. But for me personally, it really needs this push and someone who's like, just sit down, just do it. And it sounds really stupid and not a very high quality advice. I don't know if you say that in English as well, but like this push in the ass to do things and to finally get going. So this is something I need every once in a while, and I wanted to talk about the fact that right now it's a very good moment to sit down and write. And by writing, I don't necessarily mean you have to write a novel. Maybe you've never really been into writing, but writing can be so many things. It can be, writing down your thoughts, writing a morning page, your diary, or just, a little short story, a poem, whatever, just something that is, if you are still studying, far away from academic writing, just something that is fun, that is a little bit different. And I feel like, especially when you're writing a lot of academic papers, or you are doing a lot of things with your mind in your job or whatever, just in general, it can be very helpful to sit down and do some creative writing, even if it's just, writing down your thoughts, but just without any expectations. This is a really, really important thing, and maybe I'm trying to encourage you to, after this video, you take a few minutes. It doesn't need to be long. Sit down with a page of paper and start writing. If it's maybe an idea that you've had for a very long time, or just writing about your morning, about what all the thoughts you have in your head, it can really help, or at least that's how it is for me, because writing is such a big part of my life, as I said, and it is a lot more than just being creative and writing down stories for other people to read. It's also writing down things that are in my head and making this whole carousel and whirlwind become a little bit easier, so to say. In my last video, I talked a lot about the fact that autumn is the time where I thrive, especially winter, but autumn is the time where I prepare and where I finally feel like myself again after a long, hot and annoying summer. I'm not a summer person, so yeah, autumn is the time for me, and this is the time where I get most creative. I suddenly have so many ideas. I want to sit down, I want to have time for writing, and maybe this is not the case for you, but if it is, it's the perfect time to start and to sit down. Just do it. That is my stupid advice. Just do it. Wow, it really sounds very, very bland. Anyways, there is another reason why autumn, especially November, is very good to write and to bring your projects to paper. Because November is National Novel Writing Month, and this is the time where so many people who are in this community, in this writing community, just sit down every single day and write their words. And I know that there is a very big debate around NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, and I don't really want to go too deep into this. I've done a little bit of research and I haven't made up my mind completely if I want to participate on that website again. So just to give you an idea of what this is. NaNoWriMo is an internet site where you have your account and then you can write down each day your progress of how much you've written. The goal is to write at least 50,000 words within November. So that's the amount of a novel, basically. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to write 50,000 words. You can make your own goals, but the specific National Novel Writing Month goal is 50,000 words. I did that last year. It was a big challenge. It was especially hard to explain it to other people why I'm so eager to do this. And if I had said, well, I need to do something for uni, nobody would have questioned why I'm sitting down each day. But with writing, people were like, but just finish it later. And I was like, no, I need to finish my word count for today. It was a little bit confusing for some because I usually don't write every single day, even though people know that writing is a very important and serious thing for me. But yeah, it caused some confusion. So it makes sense to communicate it beforehand and tell people you're participating in NaNoWriMo and you're going to write every single day, and it's important. You can also do it if you don't have one big project. You can write on a few smaller ones, so it's really not that dramatic or that strict. So just make your own rules, basically. But then there is this website, and it provides a lot of information and prompts, and to prepare yourself. There is like Preptober at the moment. October is called Preptober, where you prepare everything to be able to write your story during November. But now there has been this big debate around this whole institute. I don't know, is it an institution or like the organizers of NaNoWriMo? And because they have stated that it is totally fine to use AI in your writing because it would be classist and ableist not to allow it, because for some people it is necessary to use it. And this has caused a big debate, especially because AI in the writing community has caused a lot of problems, because certain AI firms used novels from authors to train the AI computer. And that was a very controversial debate. So now people are very like, we don't want to use AI, it's not cool. And people are also saying that by claiming that a disabled person cannot work without AI, that is ableist in itself. I don't want to go into any more detail. This is just the general debate at the moment, and there are a lot of people who are dropping out and who are not using the platform anymore, so they're just doing their own thing. There was also Ollie Ferguson suggesting several new names. One was Novel Ember, and I really like that. If you want to check out his thoughts on this whole topic, check out his video. It was very, very nice. But for me personally, I haven't decided on what I'm gonna do. And I also think, without explaining this now too much, I don't know if it makes any sense to you, but I think maybe it's one of these things where cancel culture. Maybe it's one of these things where cancel culture goes a little bit too far. But I'm just gonna say this. I made a video on cancel culture if you're interested in that. I'm not saying that it is not controversial or that I'm totally fine with how NaNoWriMo handled this whole situation. I also think it's so important how you word things, and I think they didn't do a good job. But I'm not sure if it's a reason to really turn the back on this whole platform. Anyways, if you want to use the platform or not, that's your own decision. But the thing is, it's National Novel Writing Month in November. So if you are motivated, sit down and write your story, and write every single day, because so many people out there are doing the same during November. That's so motivating. I managed to do it last year, and I'm gonna participate maybe this year, but in a different form. I'm not gonna write 50,000 words, and I'm just gonna try to sit down each day to write something, or at least to do research, because I have several projects. Maybe I'll talk about this later, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. But the idea is to write at least every single day, and that's already a big thing for me because I often neglect that. For me, autumn is another motivator. I already said that. It's like the leaves are whispering the little stories into my ear and I just need to listen closely. But taking the time is the most important thing. So this is just what I'm trying to say here. Maybe you can mark it in your calendar and be like, okay, Saturday I have time, so I'm gonna sit down. Try to find a surrounding that is helpful for you, that is inspiring. Maybe you can do it at home, but if that's not sparking your imagination, so maybe it's in a cafe or a library or a park, mark it in your calendar and then just do it. A few other things, and this is more advanced, and I don't know if this is the right video to share this, but there was this question, how to improve your writing. And I think one of the most important things is to, if you really want to, I don't know, maybe you show it to other people and then publish it one day, don't be afraid to give your text to other people and get feedback. If there is any possibility in your town to have a little literature community, then go there and do it. There is a literature group in Vienna at the Literature House. It is, I think, once a month, where you can go, read your texts, and then you get feedback from the people who are there. There is this big thing of kill your darlings, and this is another advice that I would give you: kill your darlings. Because in your writing you often have those words or those sentences, those characters that you absolutely love, and then maybe after you got feedback from other people or after you've realized this yourself, you're like, it actually doesn't fit that well, but you love it so much because you think it's so nice or brilliant, or you're so attached to it out of whatever reason. But you have to consider to kill your darlings and take it out of the story to make the story better. I think it's very often the situation with, beginning sentences or prologues or something like that. When you write something that you absolutely love, always question yourself, why do I love it? Does it have any benefit for my story? Does it make sense for other people? Because if you want to publish it, you have to think of your audience. And if you get a lot of feedback where people tell you, well, I'm sorry, but this prologue has nothing to do with the rest of the story, or I don't really think this character is necessary, but you yourself have gotten very attached to it, you still should consider to take it out or at least change it, or what can you do to make it more suitable for the story. One more point that you can check is show, don't tell. This is something that I heard very early on when I started writing. Show, don't tell means that you don't need to over-explain certain situations, but let your characters show their emotions or their thoughts via their actions. You might not want to say like, Henry thought it was a stupid day. That's like a statement, that's like the explanation of how Henry feels. But you might want to try to show us the situation where Henry feels bad. Why does he feel like it's a bad situation? Show us. So maybe he walks out the door and there is like this extremely heavy wind and he's super cold, and then there is a dog barking at him and he's scared, and then he forgets his wallet at home. But really show the situation that he's in and that makes him feel like, oh, this is a bad day. Things like that can improve a scene so much, believe me. And also this also goes hand in hand with kill your darlings and show, don't tell. Always look for adjectives that might be too much. When you're writing, it often feels so handy to push in that many adjectives, and there are lots of writers who love using adjectives. There's nothing wrong with that. But especially at the beginning of, getting into this whole writing habit, make sure or mark all the adjectives that you have in your text and then question yourself, do I really need them, or is there a better way to describe it? Because by using adjectives you make it very easy for yourself. Make sure to question the phrases that you use, because very often we use those overused phrases that actually are a little bit ridiculous in their meaning, and they can make a scene kind of comical or ridiculous in a moment that doesn't want it to be. I don't know if I have a good example here. Let me think. Oh, I had to think of Fourth Wing, because there were a lot of those phrases that just made it seem so a little bit stupid, and it was so sad. His blood was boiling. It's such an overused phrase, and it's like it really leads the reader to imagining the blood boiling, and then it can sometimes just make it a little bit funny because you have this image in your head, or like his eyes were sparkling. When I was doing those feedback rounds in at different literature workshops, they were always telling us eyes can't sparkle. And I know you might argue, yes, they can, but then it's usually just what's going on with the mimic in the face, less with the eye itself. The eye can't sparkle. You know, if you like the light that is reflecting, yes, but not the eye itself. If you're just standing there and the light is not changing, your eye doesn't all of a sudden sparkle because you're happy. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying that it is bad to use such phrases or use metaphors, obviously, and it's great to wander off, to have certain pictures in your head. That is why you write and what literature is all about. But always question yourself, is this phrase making something comical that actually shouldn't be, or is it maybe overused? So what does this phrase even mean? You know, that's sometimes worth overthinking for a second, or at least if you are rereading the text. This is my last advice: write shitty first drafts. Don't be afraid, especially if you want to participate at Novelember or National Novel Writing Month, or if you just sit down to write your first short story or whatever. Just don't be afraid to write a shitty first draft, because it can be as bad as it wants to. You just need the courage to sit down and start, and everything else will come afterwards. And if you don't want to work on that first draft anymore because you think, oh, it's really, really bad and I need to start again, that's fine. But at least you need this kick-off moment, and then from there you can go on. And I've always been too afraid to start writing, because I was always like, but I don't have the right words, and then I write a sentence and I feel like, oh, it's not good enough, and then I delete it again. But you will never get anywhere if you don't just start, and if you are always afraid of writing something that isn't good, because in the moment you are still in your room writing your text, no one else is going to read it. You don't have to read the text at a reading, at a feedback round, if you're not ready. So you can rewrite this whole idea again and again, that's fine, but just start with a shitty first draft. So I hope this was a motivation for you to sit down and write whatever it is you want to write, and let me know how it went and how it inspired you, maybe. I would love to hear that. I did some creative writing classes, like not classes, it was more like a little workshop where almost no one attended except for very lovely friends. What I wanted to say is that I always love to encourage people to write and take that time, because it can be so beneficial, even if you're not into writing per se, even if it's not something that you love doing all the time. But sometimes just sit down, write a few words. And if you are more into writing, then please take November as a motivator and sit down as often as you can, and we can share this experience maybe a little bit. So just drop into the comments how it went, and I will do so as well. And I have a few projects that I want to tackle. So there is this one winter story that I have in the back of my head, and it's been growing. I'm always writing a little section each winter. I should write several short stories for a reading in February. It's on the topic finding quiet. I have absolutely no idea what to write about this. I'm really not very excited for this topic, but I said I'm gonna do it, so I have to. There is one short story that emerged over the past few weeks. I already mentioned it in my last video. It's about two women in the 1920s and they are falling in love, and I'm not really someone who writes romance stories very often. I mean, sometimes a little romance is included in a story that I write, but it's never just a romance story per se. This is going to be very interesting, and I don't know if I can pull this off or if I can write it the way I imagine it and how I have it in my head. Then there is obviously my big novel project, which is just always there, and it will be for much longer. And with my novel project, I don't really need time to write, but to do research. And that's also very important. Those are my 4 projects where I really want to sit down, like do the research, do my little short stories and write all that stuff. What also always helps is to make some Pinterest boards to just get into the mood. Maybe I'll share some of those. I have done so in some previous writing vlogs if you want to check that out. And yeah, this is what I'm gonna do in November, because it's a very lovely month, and when it's really cold and grey, it's just so beautiful to sit down at your desk, have a little candle and some nice light, or go to the library and just write. I feel like out of the dark and the early dark evenings, there are so many incredible ideas creeping out. Not necessarily creepy stories, but like I feel like they're hiding in those darker months, and then they just come out. That's how it feels for me. Maybe it does feel similar for anyone else, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're like, I need the sun, I need summer, I need vitamin D to function and to be creative. But anyways, I'm gonna end this video here. I'm sending you so much inspiration and creativity. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know if this was of any help or interesting. I'm definitely gonna make more videos about writing because it's just something I really love, but maybe you want to see something slightly different or more insight or depth in anything I was talking about. I thought let's just do a little general video here, and if you benefit from some tips that I had for you, I can make a video just about some tips for writing, or I can also talk about National Novel Writing Month a little bit more. Yeah, lots of possibilities here, so just let me know. It's time to finish my tea. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.